to see your pretty smile.
Oh, hello.
You got tiny toes, Alice.
Do I? I need a break. Description box. Hi crafty people and Merry Christmas!
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time! Today I'm here with Alice, who is almost 18 months, and Isabel, who has just turned 3. Very exciting. And I'm sharing with you how I made their Christmas outfits this year. They're both wearing a pinafore dress, slightly different pinafore dresses, and I'll be sharing how I made both of them in today's tutorial. Last week I shared how I made Elijah's Christmas outfit as well. He is our 4-year-old son, and if you missed that video, I'll share a link of that in the description box down below. If this is your first video on my channel, then welcome. My name is Marie, and on this channel I love to motivate mums to make and mend. Today's making project is one you could do for a Christmas outfit or just a really cute dress to wear at any other point in the year. The girls' dresses are slightly different. Isabel's has the bib at the front and pockets, and Alice's just has the straps down the front and they tie up at the back. Tying them up at the back rather than having buttons means that they are adjustable so that as they grow taller, I'm able to extend them. Just here, nice example there. Rather than it being set as a button height and you're stuck with just having the straps the certain length of the button. If you enjoy making kids clothes, I'll leave a link to some of my other kids clothing videos in the description box down below for you to watch after this. But for now, we're going to teach you how I made these pinafore dresses. So let's get making!
My mum made my Christmas outfit.
I've already made the sample dresses, so I'll show a picture of them here. But I have Isabel here so that I can show you how I measured her and how I then also measured Alice as well in order to make this dress. You'll need to have 5 measurements. The first thing I like to do is to put a ribbon around their tummy where their waist is, so that each of the measurements you do, you're going from the same waist point. So I have the ribbon here to show where her waist is because all of the measurements will be determined by that waist point. So the first measurement you need is around the waist. The second measurement is from the front waistline to the back of the shoulder blade at the back. The third measurement is from the front waist all the way crisscrossing to their back on the other side. The fourth length is from the waist measurement down to where you'd like the skirt to come to, so to their knee or longer or shorter depending what you would like. And the fifth measurement is across their chest of how wide you would like the straps to be apart. Once you have those 5 measurements, you're able to use them in the spreadsheet that I've linked down below. Once you import those measurements that you have found, the spreadsheet will tell you the size pieces that you need to cut for your pattern to suit the child that you're making the dress for. Having the pattern accessible this way means that you're able to customize it to suit the girl that you're making this for. So I hope that that's easy for you to use. And see the link in the description down below if you'd like to use that free pattern template.
Because this pattern is mostly rectangles, I use my rotary cutter and rotary cutting mat to cut them out. I find it a lot easier. If you don't have one of these though, you can just use your standard dressmaking scissors. For each of the pieces that I'm cutting, I'm putting a little tag on it so that it says whether it's the waistband or the ruffle, because each of the pieces looks very similar. The pattern pieces include an optional bib, the straps, the ruffle for the straps, the waistband and the belt loops for the back of the waistband, a ruffle for the bottom of the skirt, optional pockets, and a front and back piece of the skirt. First, we're going to make the skirt, so you'll need your front and back skirt pieces. The back skirt piece is slightly longer to provide a bit of extra coverage over their bottom while they're playing, or if they're in a nappy especially. On this store-bought skirt, you can see why I make the back of the skirt a bit longer. On the back of the skirt piece, I have the center of the skirt being 5 centimeters longer, and then I do a semicircle to taper it up so that the edges are the same as the front piece. I'll first show you how I made Alice's skirt without pockets, and then I'll show you the version with pockets. I've pinned my 2 skirt pieces wrong sides together because I'm going to be doing French seams. I'm sewing very close to the edge of my fabric here with wrong sides together, and then with a French seam you cut off any excess, which to be honest I don't usually do. Flip it in the right way and then sew down the exact same seam again with the right sides together. This time I increased the width of my seam so that I'm not sewing exactly over where my previous one was, to make sure that the seam is encased. So this skirt is done, ready for the ruffle to be sewn on the bottom. If you're making it with pockets though, you'll need to sew the pockets on first before you sew down the side seams. Attach your pocket pieces in the side seam of the skirt using a French seam. Then you're going to attach the front and back skirt pieces by sewing around the pocket bag and down the rest of the side seam. When you're sewing from the pocket bag piece onto the side seam part, don't forget to put your needle down before you pivot your fabric. The pockets are now complete, so I'll show you how we make the ruffle. You will have two long thin pieces to make your ruffle out of, and the first thing we're going to do is to attach them both together, again using some French seams, so that they are one long continuous circle. Then I'm going to hem one side of the ruffle the entire way around. To do this, I fold the fabric up twice and sew down the folded edge to make a rolled hem. To form the ruffle, we're going to change the tension of our machine down to a 0 and the stitch length as long as possible, and then sew a straight stitch along the side of your fabric, making sure to not go forwards and backwards at the beginning or end. That way you're able to pull the loose threads to gather the fabric together and form that ruffle. Gather the ruffle until it's the same length as the bottom of your skirt, and then start pinning it in place, again wrong sides together first. I pin the side seams together first, then I find the quarter points of the skirt and the quarter point on the ruffle and pin that together, and then put pins in between those places to hold the ruffle in place ready to sew. As I'm pushing the ruffle through my sewing machine, I am making sure to be flattening out any of the ruffles and keeping them all even the whole way around. Once I've sewn the ruffle around with the wrong sides together, I flip it out the other way and sew it right sides together. To avoid having the ruffle sticking up at a bit of a weird angle, I choose to top stitch the ruffle down. To do this, I run the center of my presser foot along that seam line where the ruffle meets the bottom of the skirt, and I have my needle slightly onto the skirt piece of the fabric. This will help to hold the ruffle in place so that it's not flapping around. And I also have used a gold thread, which will make it nice and decorative and festive. Next, we're going to be making the top part of the dress. I'm going to move the waistband and the belt loops aside for later. First, I'm going to take the ruffle piece and I'm going to hem it in the same way that we did for the ruffle on the bottom of the skirt. And then on the other side of the ruffles, I'm going to gather it up using my gathering stitch, again the same way we gathered the ruffle for the skirt piece. I do the same process for both of my ruffle pieces. Then I take one ruffle piece and sandwich it between my two strap pieces. This will create the front and back of the straps, and my ruffle will be sticking out of the side of the strap. I measure down to where Isabel or Alice's shoulder blades were on their straps, and that's where I stop the ruffle. Then I just spread the ruffle out along the side of my strap, ready to sew a straight stitch to hold it in place. Then when I fold the straps back, it creates the front and back of the straps with the ruffle sticking out of the side. If you're making the dress like I did for Alice without the bib part in between, you're going to need to complete the straps by making them into a tube. To do this, I push the ruffle in between the two pieces of the strap, making sure that it's not going to be in the way when I sew down the side of the tube. Then I sew a straight stitch down the side of the tube, making sure to use my left hand as a guide to check that the ruffle is not getting caught. I then turn my strap in the right way, fold over the end of it, and top stitch around all three of the sides that are going to be exposed. I use my gold thread to do this. If you're making the dress with the bib like I did with Isabel, you'll first need to top stitch along the folded part at the top of the bib. Then I'm pinning one side of the bib to just the front of one of the straps. So at this point I have not sewn my straps into tubes in this situation. Then I'm going to use the front piece of my other strap and pin that and sew it to the other half of the bib. So my bib is now attached just to the front pieces of each of the straps. This is what it looks like from the front and also from the back. Now I need to finish off these straps, so I'm going to make the top parts of it into a tube and then top stitch the bottom part once I get to the bib where I'm not able to then finish the tube. You could just top stitch the whole lot, but I think making the tubes at the top of the straps do look a little bit neater than if you were to just top stitch the whole way along. I finished the top of the straps in the same way that I did for Alice's dress, but I leave a little gap as I get towards the bib part so that I'm able to turn the strap in the right way. Obviously with the bib there, I'm not able to sew down the whole way making it into a tube, so there is a bit of a gap here which I will need to finish once I get my gold thread in. I'm going to top stitch around all the sides, and as I top stitch, I'm going to fold under that exposed edge and sew it down so that it stays in place. I'm also folding over the short side of the strap, pushing it into the casing so that as I top stitch along that short side of the strap, it will close that part of the tube off as well. Now that we've completed the top part of the dress and the skirt piece, we're going to move on to the waistband. First, you're going to take the 2 belt loop pieces and create them into tiny little tubes by sewing right sides together down one side. Then I used a chopstick to press them in through the right way and pushed the seam so that it was in the center back of each of these little belt loops. These belt loops will be on the back of the dress to thread the straps through so that we're able to put the dress on. Fold one of your waistband pieces in half so you're able to see where the back of it is, and then align your belt loops where you would like them to be. I recommend putting them a little bit further apart than I did on mine because they were a little bit close, which made the straps fall off my girl's shoulders. Then you're going to do a zigzag stitch to hold them in place. You'll want the belt loop pieces to be at least as wide apart as the front part of your straps are, but possibly even wider than that. Then you want to create loops with your waistband, so just sewing right sides together to form 2 circles, and then we're going to attach the straps to the waistband. For some reason I had the hardest time remembering what on earth I was meant to do this for Alice's straps. I think I was trying to French seam the straps in and it just was confusing me.
But I want this sticking out of here. Why can't I work that out? So I want this to be attached like this. Do I? This is the 3rd one I've made. I need a break. We're back. I worked it out.
So I'll show you a better example of how I attach the top to the waistband when I do Isabel's one. Mark the middle of the front of the bib and line it up with the middle of the front of the waistband. This should be the opposite side to your belt loops. Then you're going to match the side seams on the back of the waistband and pin along it so that the bib or the straps, if you're making it without the bib section, are sticking up and encased within that seam of the 2 pieces of waistband. And then when you sew it together, the bib or the straps will be attached as you fold it down, and it really isn't that hard. I don't know why I struggled when I was doing Alice's one, but there you go. I then changed to my gold thread so I could run a decorative top stitch along the top there of that waistband piece. The last step is to put the elastic in the waist and attach the waistband to the skirt piece. Cut a piece of elastic so that it is the waist measurement length and then sew it together using a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. Then I push the elastic into the waistband piece and I sew a zigzag stitch around the edge of the casing to hold the elastic in place, which makes it easier to attach the waistband piece to the skirt part because this casing of the waistband is closed and the elastic won't move. Now we're back to the skirt piece and we're going to sew a gathering stitch along the top of it so we can gather the top of the skirt in so that it is the same length as the dimension around the waistband. Place the waistband inside your skirt piece with wrong sides together and pin along it, trying to even out the ruffles to make sure that it's gathered evenly around the whole width of the skirt. Then we're going to sew our standard French seam around here, so sewing a straight stitch along the edge of the ruffles here. And I found that this particular part of the skirt had a lot of unevenness and loose threads, so I did go ahead and cut off any of the bulk and all those loose threads there before flipping it in the other way and sewing the next part of my French seam. At this point there are a lot of layers to be sewing through, so you might just need to go a little bit slowly over the parts, especially where the belt loops are. So here is our finished dress for Isabel. To tie it up, you just put the straps through the belt loops and tie a knot, usually once it's on the girl so you know how tight to make them. The same for Alice's dress here, putting the straps through the belt loops and tying them in a knot to secure them in place. Now let's try it on the girls and see how they look.
So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial as I showed you how I've made these pinafore dresses. If you make one of these dresses or a dress inspired by the pattern that I've shared today, then don't forget to tag me on Instagram so I can see a photo of it. If you've enjoyed watching this video, then you can press subscribe to see some of my other videos. No. Back. Can you go back, back, back? Back, 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 back.
Like a rubbish truck.
Like a rubbish truck. And if you haven't yet seen the video where I made Elijah's Christmas shorts and suspenders set, then I'll leave a link to that. You might like to watch that next. This here is Elijah. He is our 4-year-old and he is wearing his Christmas shorts as well, but he's not wearing his suspenders at the moment. That's fine. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, go get creative and we'll see you later. You say bye. Bye.